Never judge someone too soon, because you have no idea who they really are. Before everything changed before truth, karma and humiliation flipped upside down. Emily Parker walked into a place she was never meant to belong. It had been 20 years since she last saw her high school classmates, 20 years since yearbooks, prom dresses, and whispered hallway drama. She thought time might soften old dynamics. She was wrong. Emily parked her old used SUV outside a high-end restaurant, the kind of place where you need a reservation weeks ahead and the menu doesn't bother listing prices, because if you need to ask, you shouldn't be there. She checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. No designer lipstick, no luxury earrings, just a simple sweater and a smile. She practiced 3 times before stepping out. She told herself, "It's fine. They're just people, old friends." But the moment she walked, through the glass entrance something shifted. Laughter echoed. Diamond bracelets glimmered. Perfume filled the room like invisible wealth. And then eyes turned. Victoria Hale, the girl who ran the high school social hierarchy like a royalty title. She never lost, stood in the center of the private dining room. Her hair glowed under the chandelier. Her heels, her dress, her posture, everything screamed untouchable. She spotted Emily and smirked. "Loud enough for everyone to hear," she said. "Everyone, look, Emily actually showed up. Wow, did babysitting cost a fortune tonight?" A few giggles, then louder ones. And then the worst kind, the silent smirks, the polite but cruel kind. Someone whispered, "She still drives the same kind of car she did after college." Someone else, "Oh, she didn't even dress up. That's kinda sad." Emily forced a smile, fake enough to crack, polite enough to survive. She moved toward an empty seat, the one farthest from the center, the one someone intentionally left open, not for inclusion, but for separation. Victoria sat down across from her, pretending concern. "Emily, sweetie, you should have told us you needed help picking an outfit. We could have guided you." More laughter. Emily's chest tightened, but she swallowed her pride along, with a sip of water she didn't want. Inside, one truth echoed louder than their voices. She didn't belong here. Not tonight, not in their eyes. But what Emily didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this night wouldn't just bruise her ego, it would trigger a chain of events none of them were ready for. Because very, very soon, the same people laughing at her would be begging for forgiveness. Sometimes humiliation doesn't end in the room. Sometimes it follows you home. Emily wished the night would disappear the moment she left that restaurant. She wished the laughter, the whispers, the fake smiles would fade with the closing door. But cruelty, especially the kind wrapped in elegance, never ends that easily. She sat in the passenger seat of her husband's car later that night, staring at the city lights passing by the window. Her chest felt tight, her eyes burned, and her phone buzzed. Once, then again, then non-stop. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Curiosity pulled her toward the screen. Even though something inside told her not to look, she unlocked it. At the top of the group chat was a photo, a polished, perfectly framed group picture taken inside that luxury restaurant. Everyone smiling, everyone posing. Perfect, elegant, united, except one thing. She wasn't in it. Emily scanned the faces twice, 3 times, hoping she'd somehow missed herself. But she wasn't there. Not forgotten. Excluded. Just as her breath became shaky, a new message popped up from Victoria. "Emily left before we took the picture. Maybe she was embarrassed?" The emoji burned more than the words. Then the replies started. "Oh, poor thing. She didn't look ready for that restaurant. I knew she wouldn't stay until dessert." The laughter wasn't written, but Emily could hear it. Her vision blurred. Tears fell before she could stop them, rolling silently down her face. She flipped her phone face down on the table, as if hiding the screen could erase what she saw. She didn't want anyone to see her crying. especially not Helen, her mother-in-law, a woman who always carried herself with restraint, a woman who never complained, a woman who Emily deeply respected, but silence has a way of revealing pain, and Helen sitting just a few feet away. In the living room, noticed the trembling at the edge of Emily's shoulders. She didn't speak. She didn't rush. She simply watched quietly the way someone watches a storm they've seen before. Later that night, after the house grew silent, Emily sat alone on the edge of her bed, staring at nothing. She replayed every laugh, every stare, every comment, and then the final message arrived. Next time, let's pick somewhere more affordable, so everyone can stay for the full night. Victoria didn't tag her. She didn't need to. Emily closed her eyes. Another tear escaped. But at that exact moment, the bedroom door opened. Helen stood there. No judgment, no sharpness, just quiet understanding in her calm, steady eyes. She didn't ask, "What happened?" She didn't say, "Are you okay?" Instead, with a voice soft enough to break someone's guard, she said, "Whoever hurt you, they have no idea who they're messing with." Emily didn't know what that meant. Not yet. But one thing was certain. That humiliation, that picture, that message, it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Some humiliation happens quietly, but some are designed to be witnessed. Victoria's birthday party wasn't just a gathering. It was a stage, the kind where money walked in first, ego followed, and sincerity never made the guest list. The restaurant was glowing with gold decor, velvet seating and champagne flutes lined up like trophies. One by one, the guests arrived, each holding a luxury gift bag. Emily walked in slowly, clutching a small, neatly wrapped box, a perfume set. She spent days choosing, budgeting, rethinking, and finally buying. She reminded herself, it's the thought that matters. But in that room, thought didn't matter, price tags did. Laughter filled the space as designer, gifts stacked higher and higher on Victoria's table, a diamond bracelet, a luxury candle worth more than a week's groceries, a limited edition handbag. Every gift was met with exaggerated squeals. "Oh my gosh, you shouldn't have. Stop, this is too much. You know me so well." Then it was Emily's turn. Her heart pounded as Victoria reached for her box, the smallest one on the table. Victoria smiled sweetly at first, the way a wolf smiles right before it bites. Oh, from Emily! For a second, just one fragile second, Emily hoped she would simply say, "Thank you," and move on. But hope is dangerous in the wrong room. Victoria lifted the perfume box, tilted her head dramatically, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh wow, they still make this." A hush fell. Then a ripple of laughter. Not the kind you join, the kind you endure. She continued, twisting the knife. "It's cute. Really? I'll just keep it as a memory. Don't worry, I'm sure you tried." People laughed harder, some covering their mouths, others not bothering. Someone whispered, "Who gives that as a gift here?" Someone else. She must not know how these events work. Emily felt her throat tighten, but she didn't speak. She didn't defend herself. She just stood there holding her forced smile like a shield made of paper. Inside, however, something cracked. The humiliation wasn't loud, but it was deep. She lowered her eyes, placing her hands together to steady herself. No one noticed, or so she thought. In the corner of the room, seated quietly with perfect posture, Helen watched everything. Her expression didn't change. No surprise, no anger, just a subtle, knowing stillness. Like someone collecting evidence, Victoria moved on to the next gift, without hesitation, already laughing again, already performing for her audience. But her performance meant nothing compared to the words that formed silently in Emily's mind. "This is the last time I walk into a room and let someone make me feel small." She didn't know how, she didn't know when. But that night, at that table surrounded by glittering artificial smiles, Emily made a promise. Not to fight back with insults, not to lower herself, but to stand one day, in a place where the people laughing now would fall silent when they heard her name. And that day was much closer than anyone in that room realized. Some betrayal is loud, some is whispered in rooms where they think you'll never hear. The winery was beautiful, the kind people post on social media with captions like "living my best life" and pretend everything is perfect. Vines stretched across the hills, sunlight hit the glasses just right, and soft jazz played in the background. But behind the scenery, there was something rotten. Emily arrived quietly again, wearing a simple blouse and soft pastel cardigan. She wasn't trying to impress. She just wanted to belong. Just once, Victoria greeted her with a bright, empty smile. "Emily, there you are. I wasn't sure you'd keep coming." It sounded like kindness, but felt like a warning. Emily forced a polite smile and joined the group at a long, rustic wooden table. Wine was poured, photos were taken, and conversations flowed like people were auditioning for a lifestyle magazine. For a moment, Emily allowed herself to breathe, to pretend she wasn't the outsider. Then someone announced, "Let's take a group picture outside by the vineyard." Everyone stood. Emily whispered, "I'll just run to the restroom first." She walked toward the restroom hall, away from the laughter and glowing glasses. Inside, she splashed water on her face, just enough to calm the sting of memory. Still clinging from past events, she turned to leave, but then she heard it. Voices. Familiar ones. Not far from her. She froze, hand on the door, breath held. The voices were coming from the far end of the restroom, where 3 of her former classmates stood checking their lipstick and adjusting their designer sunglasses. They didn't know she was there, and they didn't bother lowering their voices. "Did you see her outfit?" A laugh. "It looks like something from a clearance bin." Another voice chimed in. "I seriously don't get why she keeps showing up. If I were her, I'd die of embarrassment." A third voice sharp, amused. "She's like a charity guest." Victoria lets her come for entertainment. Laughter echoed, bouncing off the marble walls. Sharp, cold, unforgettable. Emily's throat tightened. She stepped silently back into a stall, locking it, covering her mouth so her breath wouldn't give her away. The whispers kept going. Even her wine tasting notes were embarrassing. "I was trying so hard not to laugh. She's just sad." Emily closed her eyes. Her heart beat hard, too fast, too loud. She wished she could disappear, shrink, erase herself from their conversations and from the room. But then, silence, footsteps, a door closing. They were gone. Emily waited a moment before stepping out. She looked at her reflection, not the outfit, not the hair, her eyes of someone trying to hold herself together. She whispered to her reflection, not out loud, but in her mind, "Why am I letting them break me?" Just as she exhaled, the restroom door opened, and there, standing quietly, was Helen. Not shocked, not confused, just watching, as if she already knew. Helen didn't ask what happened. Instead, she simply placed a soft hand on Emily's arm and said, "Come back outside. Head high. We are not done." And for the first time, Emily didn't feel small. She felt seen. And somewhere deep beneath the hurt, something strong began to grow. Not revenge, not rage, something quieter. Strength. And strength, once awakened, never goes back to sleep. Every humiliation has a final moment, the one you don't forget, the moment you stop absorbing the pain and start waking up. The next gathering wasn't glamorous like the last one. No vineyards, no chandeliers, just a casual dinner reservation in a trendy downtown restaurant. But cruelty doesn't need luxury. It just needs an audience. Everyone sat around the table laughing, scrolling through their phones, posting stories, tagging each other like trophies. Emily sat quietly, stirring her drink, hoping just for one evening nothing would happen. But cruelty has timing, and Victoria knew exactly when to strike. With her perfect posture and permanent, confident smile, She turned to Emily and said, "So next time, how about you cover the group bill?" The table went silent, but not the good silent. The sharp kind. The waiting for the reaction kind. Emily blinked, unsure she heard correctly. Me? Victoria laughed softly and leaned forward, like a mentor offering guidance. "Well, you've been joining all the gatherings. It's only fair. And honestly," she paused, enjoying the suspense, "it would be cute to see you try. Show some effort." A few people looked down at their plates, hiding smiles. Someone pretended to cough, and one person, not brave enough to defend, but bold enough to enjoy, whispered, "This will be fun." Emily felt the blood drain from her face. She wanted to disappear. Victoria continued, voice sweet, but venom underneath. "It's not about the money. It's about contributing, about proving you belong here." Then added loud enough for everyone, "If you do." The table erupted in laughter. Not loud worse. Polite, controlled, socially acceptable cruelty. Emily swallowed, her throat tightening. She forced a smile and whispered, "Sure, I'll figure something out." But inside, something shattered. That night, Emily walked into her house without speaking. She set her purse down gently, too gently the way someone sets down something fragile because they are the fragile thing. She locked herself in the dark living room and finally let the tears fall. Not quietly this time, not held back, raw, exhausted, broken. Her breath hitched as she tried to muffle the sound, but grief doesn't stay polite. And that's when she felt it, a hand resting gently on her shoulder. Emily froze. Helen stood behind her, quiet, still, present, no judgment, no questions, just calm eyes that already knew everything. Emily finally spoke, voice shaking. I really tried. I thought if I was kind, quiet, patient, they would stop." Her voice cracked, "But they don't want me there. They want to break me." Helen listened, not like someone hearing gossip, but like someone measuring truth. When Emily finished crying, Helen finally responded, her voice steady, controlled, almost chilling. "They think you're alone." A pause. "They think you have no power." Another pause. "They are wrong." Emily looked up, confused. Helen took a deep breath. The kind someone takes before stepping into a battlefield they've already chosen to win. And with quiet certainty, she said, "I won't let them hurt you again." That night marked the shift. Not revenge, not yet, but the moment the victim stopped being alone, and the world, the one filled with wine, whispers and fake smiles, had no idea what was coming next. Some storms don't roar when they arrive. Some come in silence and erase everything in their way. For the first time in weeks, the house was still. No tears, no trembling breaths, just silence, the kind that comes after a decision has been made. Emily sat across from Helen at the kitchen table, eyes swollen, fingers wrapped around a lukewarm mug she wasn't drinking. Helen didn't rush her, didn't interrupt, didn't comfort with meaningless words. She simply studied Emily as if memorizing every bruise that wasn't on the skin but in the heart. Finally, Helen spoke, calm, controlled, sharp. What was her husband's company called? Emily hesitated, as if saying the name made everything too real. Her voice came out small, fragile. "It's called Sterling Ridge Industries." A beat of silence. And then Helen's expression shifted. Just barely, but enough. Not anger, not surprise. Recognition. She sat up straighter, posture changing from gentle retiree to someone who had once commanded boardrooms and bent people to strategy. Without another word, Helen pushed her chair back and walked toward the old home office she rarely used. Emily watched, confused. Then the door opened. Inside wasn't just an office. It was a vault of another life. Old binders lined the shelves, financial records, legal portfolios, strategic planning books with handwritten notes. A faded leather briefcase sat under the desk. A framed plaque lay face down, hidden deliberately. Helen sat down at a dusty desktop computer, the kind most people stopped using a decade ago. But when she turned it on, it didn't boot slowly. It acted like it had been waiting. The screen glowed blue, and a login window appeared, with a corporate emblem Emily had never seen. Helen typed, not slowly like someone elderly, but fast, efficient muscle memory fast. A soft beep. Then a new window appeared. A secured network interface with encrypted access fields and private directory links. Emily stepped closer, whispering, "Helen, what are you doing?" Helen didn't look at her. She was already inside something. Emily didn't understand. Old email archives, corporate databases, private contacts, financial reports locked behind restricted access. Her voice was steady, almost cold. Sterling Ridge Industries shouldn't be talking about expansion. Click. Their debt ratio was already unstable 2 years ago. Another click. And if they're now soliciting private investment socially, she paused, then said, "They're desperate." Emily swallowed. This wasn't the Helen who made soup and folded laundry. This was someone else. Someone powerful. Someone who knew exactly where to strike. Helen finally turned toward Emily, eyes sharp. Voice soft but lethal in intention. People like Victoria only understand power. And there is more than one kind. Emily's breath caught. "Helen, who are you?" Helen's lips curved. Not into a smile, but something colder, something earned. Someone who learned early that silence is a weapon, and timing is everything. She clicked one final icon labeled only, Network. A secure messaging window opened. Not email, not social media, something private, something old, something still alive. Helen typed a single line. "I need information on Sterling Ridge. Urgent." She sent it. And within 8 seconds, a reply appeared. "Understood. Sending files." Emily stared, stunned. Helen closed the window slowly, calmly. Not like someone beginning a fight, but like someone who already knew the ending. Then she spoke a quiet promise wrapped in steel. "No one humiliates my family." A long silence filled the room, not heavy, but electric. Something had shifted, not just in Emily, but in the universe around her. Victoria thought she had won. She had no idea. The war had just begun. Some truths aren't discovered, they are uncovered. Layer by layer, lie by lie. For the next few days, Helen barely spoke. Not because she was angry, but because she was working. Emily watched quietly from the doorway. As Helen moved through old files, scanned encrypted databases, and sent short, coded messages to people Emily had never heard of. There were no raised voices, no frantic typing, no dramatic gestures, just patience and precision. Every afternoon, the same routine repeated. A kettle boiling, a notebook opening, a soft click as the monitor turned on. Like ritual, like someone returning to a life they never really left. Emily tried to ask once, "Do you need help?" Helen didn't turn. She only replied, "Not yet." On the 4th evening, the house felt different. Emily walked into the office to bring tea, but froze. Helen wasn't typing anymore. She was staring at the monitor. Not shocked, not uncertain, but furious. A quiet, cold fury that came from knowing exactly what someone has done. Emily swallowed. "Did you find something?" Helen slowly turned the screen toward her. Rows of documents, financial reports, transaction trails, and private communication logs filled the display. Some highlighted, some marked with notes. Helen spoke calmly, but her voice held weight. "They've been falsifying revenue reports. Scroll. They listed products in development that do not legally exist. Scroll. And they convinced acquaintances to invest privately, using personal relationships instead of legal channels." Emily felt her stomach drop. "So they're lying?" Helen looked at her, expression sharp. "It's more than lying." She pointed to a specific line, one that was flagged red. This, she tapped the screen, is a projected profit statement tied to a medical Technology that isn't approved, hasn't passed safety trials, and isn't authorized for public investment. Emily blinked. Meaning? Helen answered without hesitation. Meaning they are committing financial fraud. Silence fell between them, heavy, tense, irreversible. Emily felt suddenly small, not because she was weak, but because she finally understood the scale. This wasn't about snide remarks, expensive restaurants, or petty social humiliation. This was real, dangerous, and illegal. Helen leaned back in her chair, eyes dark with certainty. Emily, listen carefully. Emily nodded. This isn't just a mistake, a beat. This is a crime. Emily's breath hitched. She whispered, "What happens now?" Helen closed the file with a single decisive click and stood. No rush, no panic, just control. Now, she said softly, "We let the truth find the right audience." Emily frowned. Who? Helen looked at her, a slow, knowing smile forming. Not warm, not friendly, strategic, the people they lied to. Then with chilling calm she added, "And the people who regulate consequences." The room felt colder. History wasn't repeating, it was waking up. Power doesn't shout, real power whispers, and the world still listens. The morning felt ordinary. Sunlight came through the kitchen window. Coffee brewed. Birds outside chirped like nothing had changed. But something had. Helen sat at her computer steady, calm, and typed a short email. No drama, no accusations, just facts. Requesting review attached are documents showing discrepancies linked to Sterling Ridge. Then one final line, for compliance purposes. I'm sharing this with all appropriate contacts. She didn't threaten. She didn't beg. She simply sent the truth to the right places. Then she reached for the phone. 3 calls, short, simple, unemotional. "Yes, I believe you should take a look at Sterling Ridge's filings. No, I'm not making a claim, just notifying. Yes," quietly. When she hung up, she didn't exhale like someone nervous. She sat still like someone waiting for a match she already struck to reach the fuse. Emily watched her from the doorway, arms crossed as if holding herself together. "Is that it?" she whispered. Helen turned slightly, expression unreadable. "That's how it starts." 2 days later, things shifted. Not loudly, not publicly. Quietly in corners people rarely look. A compliance officer forwarded the email to someone else. A mid-level manager flagged a line in a financial report. A risk analyst circled a transaction, record, and wrote one word beside it. Why? The next morning, an internal audit request was submitted. Then a meeting was rescheduled. Then another. By the end of the week, Sterling Ridge Industries, Victoria's husband's company, received a formal inquiry request. Not an accusation, just a question. But in the business world, questions spread faster than answers. And silence is suspicious. Soon, emails became whispers. Whispers became rumors. Rumors became caution. Vendors delayed agreements. Investors hesitated. A promised partnership suddenly became, "We need more time." And in a world obsessed with appearance, uncertainty is poison. Meanwhile, Victoria was oblivious, still living inside her perfect mirror. Posting brunch photos, showing off designer shoes, laughing too loud at things not funny. She had no idea her world was already cracking. But others knew. At a networking event, someone asked her husband casually, "Hey, everything good with your filings?" He blinked, confused. "Of course," he answered, too quick. Another said, "Yeah, I just heard some people are double-checking things." Probably nothing. Probably nothing. 2 words that can destroy an empire. At home, Emily watched Helen fold laundry, as though nothing extraordinary had happened. "So what now?" Emily asked softly. Helen placed a towel on the pile and answered, "Now we wait." Emily frowned. Wait for what? Helen looked at her calm, unwavering. For the people who ignored warning signs, to realize they should have listened sooner. Emily felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not fear, not humiliation, but control, a quiet strength. Helen turned off the laundry room light and walked past her. As she did, she added one final sentence, low and steady. A domino doesn't fall loudly, but once the first one tips, nothing can stop the rest. And somewhere in the city, a notification pinged on someone's computer screen. A second inquiry, then a third. The dominoes had begun. Emily didn't know whether her hands were shaking from fear or from the strange rising calm inside her. The final reunion was held in a luxury hotel lounge. Marble floors, gold accents, soft jazz playing as if the world itself had no idea what was coming. The same women were there. Same dresses, same hierarchy, same fake laughter. And of course, Victoria stood in the centre like she owned the air. She spotted Emily and smirked. "Oh, Emily made it. You didn't cancel last minute?" "I'm impressed." Small giggles, side eyes, whispers. Emily kept walking, but today she wasn't alone. Behind her walked Helen, calm, elegant, composed, dressed in quiet power. Victoria blinked. "Oh, Emily brought someone." "Hi, Mrs. Helen smiled politely. "Helen, I'm Emily's mother-in-law." Everyone assumed she was just another quiet older woman, someone irrelevant, soft, harmless. They were wrong. The food was served. Small talk circled the table like smoke. Victoria bragged loudly about business partnerships, expanding projects, investor discussions. Emily sat in silence, but it wasn't the silence of weakness anymore. It was the silence of someone waiting for the last domino to fall. Finally, Victoria lifted her glass. "Let's toast to success, wealth, and leveling up." She smirked toward Emily. "And maybe next year Emily can host, when things finally get better for her." A few chuckled. But before Emily could respond, Helen gently placed her hand on the table. Her tone was soft, but the room froze. "Actually," she said, "we should toast to something else." Victoria laughed politely. "Oh, and what would that be?" Helen looked directly at her. "To accountability." Victoria's smile faltered. Helen continued. "In this country, when someone encourages investment using false financial claims, inflated numbers, or unregistered ventures," she paused, "that is legally considered intent to defraud." The table fell silent. No one breathed. No fork clinked. Even the background music suddenly felt too loud. Victoria swallowed. I don't know what you're talking about." Helen nodded slowly. "Oh, you do?" Then she leaned forward, not threatening, just factual. "Multiple reports have already been filed. Your husband's company is under review. Bank lenders and regulators are involved now." Someone gasped. Another woman whispered, "Oh my God." Victoria's face drained of colour. That can't." Helen didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "I gave you the benefit of the doubt. But you publicly pushed investment onto these women while hiding financial collapse, lawsuits, and illegal activity." She glanced around the table. "Every one of you could have been financially harmed." Someone whispered, shaky. "I almost invested." Victoria's hands trembled. I didn't mean I wasn't trying to." Helen looked at her, not angry, just disappointed. "Humiliating others doesn't make you powerful. It only exposes how fragile you are." Victoria's mascara smudged as tears filled her eyes. And finally she turned to Emily. Her voice cracked. "Emily, I'm sorry." The room watched, stunned, breathless. Emily held her gaze, not angry, not triumphant, just finally equal. After a long moment, she replied quietly, "Apology accepted, but it doesn't erase what happened." Victoria nodded weakly because she knew it was true. The meal resumed, but nothing was the same. Victoria stayed silent. Emily sat with her head high. And Helen, she simply sipped her tea, as if this was never revenge. Just correction. Some endings aren't loud. Some endings simply stop hurting. Months passed. The world kept moving, seasons changed. Leaves fell, new ones grew, and people who once seemed larger, then life faded into silence. Victoria disappeared quietly. No announcement, no farewell dinner, no final bragging post, just absence. Her husband's company collapsed weeks. After the investigation deepened, investors pulled back, partnerships dissolved, headlines stopped being about opportunity and became about wrongdoing. Then eventually, nothing. People stopped asking, stopped caring, because when the spotlight moves, it rarely comes back. One morning, Emily sat in her small but warm kitchen, hands wrapped around a cup of freshly brewed coffee. Her phone vibrated. A notification from the old group chat, the same one that once made her stomach twist. Every time her name appeared, someone wrote, "We should meet again. It's been a while." Another message followed. "Emily, are you coming?" She stared at the phone, not with fear, not with resentment, just neutrality. Then she pressed the side button and placed the phone face down. Silence, but a peaceful kind. For the first time, she didn't feel excluded. She felt free. Helen walked into the room, still in her soft cardigan, holding folded laundry like any ordinary morning. But Emily no longer saw her as just family. She saw her as someone who carried a lifetime of wisdom and strength, someone who didn't need applause to be powerful. Helen noticed the unread message and raised an eyebrow. "No reply?" she asked. Emily shook her head gently. "No," she said. "I don't owe them anything." Helen smiled, approving, not proud. Then she spoke softly, like a final lesson. "Having less doesn't make you small." She set the laundry down, leaned slightly against the counter and continued. "What's shameful isn't living modestly. What's shameful is stepping on others to feel taller." Emily felt something loosen inside her, something she'd carried for years. Comparison, fear, constant measuring. For once, she wasn't trying to prove anything. She was enough, exactly as she was. Later, she walked to the hallway mirror, the same one where she used to criticize herself before social gatherings, trying to adjust, fix, blend in. Now, she saw something different. Not perfection, not revenge, but dignity, a quiet self-respect. She tucked a curl of hair behind her ear, looked into her own eyes, steady and confident, and whispered to herself, "I finally see me." And she smiled. Not because someone approved, not because she won, but because she no longer needed either. Sometimes, life doesn't celebrate us for surviving something painful. No one claps when we choose patience instead of anger, or when we walk away quietly instead of fighting back. But healing isn't loud. Sometimes it looks like sitting in your own kitchen with a warm cup of coffee, breathing for the first time in a long time, without fear, without shame, without pretending. Emily didn't win because someone else fell. She won because she stopped believing she wasn't enough. And maybe that's the lesson. You don't need luxury or approval or a perfect life to have worth. You only need strength, kindness, and the courage to stand back up. So if you've ever felt unseen, overlooked, or underestimated, remember this: people may judge what they think they see, but they have no idea who you truly are or who you're becoming. Not yet. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for feeling this story with me. If today's story stayed with you, even just a little, please take a moment to subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications. Your small click helps create the next story. We'll meet again in the next chapter.